Okay, so I see a lot of individuals, right, all the time that are smarter than me. I cannot lie. When I see somebody that's smarter than me, I already know that. I just gotta say that person is smarter than me. I cannot lie. There's a lot of accountants that are smarter than me. There's a lot of, people who love math or people who do mathematics, who do equations and variables better than me, smarter than me. There's a lot of individuals who do aerospace dynamics, you know, who specialize in spaceship building, UFOs, different objects that can fly, that are new aircraft, that build mathematical engineering better than me. I cannot lie about that when there's a lot of people who are able to do this level of expertise and get paid for it in a community, right? There's people that's smarter than me making trillions, quintillions smarter than me. They're on yachts, they're on spaceships, they're doing mathematical equations. But then tell me this, to save somebody's life or my own life, you have all this money, quintillions. I see beautiful R&B girls doing matte sculptures in their house, paintings that are incredible. Look like they live in Athena, Nike. They're models. They're the best at math. They're showing me numbers I couldn't imagine or fathom, right? They're showing me Rolls Royce that have been seized from me through accounting the money that I don't have. And tell me this, to save somebody's life then, so we could make even more money and do it big, like as smart as I see everybody, how come every time I see a undelivered postmaster in Google that doesn't go to the right person to save somebody's life, why is that not paying me $1 billion if I just saw 91 and that could have saved everybody who's that smart life? Making trillions, quintillions, best models and actors. They got the best cameras and technology and houses and bank accounts full that you just give. You say, I just want this much money wired. Put that into the bag this month. How come if I send out an email, it doesn't get to the right person if it could save anybody with trillions of dollars? By then just going through, okay, so was that email, you could then use the algorithm, right? So was that on Google? Was then it addressed from that place? If it wasn't that, what would then the new place? So if it wasn't that email that went or could have looked almost identical, maybe even the system did something, why then would it not then just be possibly looked at as where it could be delivered, the amount of urgency is that's in the email, and then made sure it gets to then the correct team within the state, the city, and the county, instead of showing that in Google you can have a undelivered, but say that then there's 91, or they flick the switch to not deliver it, or then make up that it cannot deliver 6 megabytes to somebody. This is absolutely false for even the people who have trillions of dollars in banking that can pick up the phone and make one call. All the generals, all the presidents. How come then that couldn't save you on Google if I'm Google IT certified and I'm not getting paid to then even show that there's proof? And then that would save somebody if you then had to do philosophy to anybody who wouldn't be able to send the email in history to then get to the right place. in postmasters. There's a lot of people who talk about what is it, like the domain or the 404 error that then doesn't be delivered, or like a .con or something, like it's the mathematical family that may be a part of it, but then it's in the way to say that of the lost deliveries, that they can see that, but they don't actually deliver it then to the state officials and the people that then know that, oh yeah, philosophy, we cannot have that replicate, so let's address that now and make sure that in the entire United States, then if somebody has a dire or urgent or an emergency need, instead of saying it didn't go to 91, maybe it says, but then it went to the correct places, that if that was supposed to be delivered and not sent there, is even sent to a different place that would know how to read it, instead of showing a person that postmaster might be undelivered, might be the con whatever, even in text messages, that then is not like communicated within Android and Apple. That's like even a lost banking payment on days you don't do transactions. How about we just make money with that by having it delivered to the correct places, and then actually endorsing the remittance, the paycheck, to the person who even talks about it online. So then the algorithm can even then use comprehension skills to then address that and say then possibly, could it even have been that person too? So then is that person's name? So is that Josh Ford? And then on social media, is his urgency and his message possibly addressing that of his email that he also connects to it? Then in his email, we're not only saying that we're about to go breach and read every email. We're just saying that if something is urgent but is then undelivered, is it being made sure that to make money and to save somebody and to help these corporations and companies, is it then doing that with all the algorithms, with all the smartest people, all of these mansions and houses, but then I gotta be the one to talk about it? I'm over here working for Google and YouTube and the state, and none of them are paying me. So now I gotta be outside and I'm figuring out all of this. And it's easy fixes for all the mathematical engineers. They were in class saying like, oh, I know the answer. They're like, oh, that's not the answer, it's this. They're up there on the board just. I'm just over there saying like, okay, but then how come I'm doing the work? You're talking math, you're doing math in class. I'm doing Wall Street. I don't know how you got the house. I'm doing cash. I'm doing records on stage. I'm doing business, selling products across the globe, going through banking issues. But how come we cannot make simple deliveries, then understand that that banking issue shouldn't have happened? We see urgency in even 91 emails that then could have been delivered or could have not been in a chain of this many. Then why is Google and YouTube not paying him enough to then have those fixes save everybody else in the United States, as well as of people who do business online, even in communities, right? Then this has not only the special forces, everybody in the services, secret services. This is then when everybody's able to function at their job, and it's not internal terror and chaos and internal war. So right now, all we see is internal war, right? Majority. Instead of saying like, okay, these are the addresses that have to be fixed. Even with Google, these have been fixed. This is what has happened on the news. Everybody's talking about the complete opposite. There's no food, people are dying, this and that. How about, okay, that just saved that much trillion. he made that much money, and we're not talking about robotics and this and that, by saving this much people, even by if the email chain got to them. So not only could it save people, but the email could have got to people, and then they could have had a new understanding of knowledge. Like, okay, one person could say, I have no idea what that means, and I have an ego. The next 5 people could say, okay, I had no idea that I have this amount of money and a house and my bank works, but this is actually what could be happening out here, especially if philosophically it's done to one person, 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, right? So then that's just, if an emergency or a dire need or banking situations or an illegal flagrant foul is on the NFL, you get to stop the camera. In the NBA, you gotta have people readdress the camera, right? Because some things you cannot let go unforeseen. So then if there's a Google of document that's of urgency, that could not only make money for the person as well as the company, but then also save lives too, right? Those ones should go and be addressed without it going to that unforeseen delivery or the black box to even the right amount of people that are in segmented departments that cannot judge, right? It goes to this, and this. Maybe it's not the police, maybe it's not that. It's a different team, because certain teams aren't supposed to know certain things. But then if it is, they get to know the command right then and there. Okay, bring the money there, is delivered there, because it also has this much proof of undelivery. But that undelivery was sent to this undelivery, that's sent to these people already should be that. And then a postmaster should make sure the user as well could know that, okay, but we did send it to this department. It's not just the police. So maybe the police not supposed to know how to read that. Maybe they're creating the issue, right, in a certain department. Or maybe the state in a certain department actually blocked the email. So now it has to go to this group that is independent of that frame of work or mind thinking, right? Sometimes in certain sectors, it's easy to have a certain frame of mind, even though those individuals get paid and they're supposed to do certain things. That's why Google and YouTube are supposed to be paying me way more, and my bank as well, because just for the safety of communities, even before, so in the 80s they had emails. Before that, there never was emails. So then now you would have to pay the person for finding everything that engineering wise to save people and in the city and state and the country, because there wasn't emails before. And then if those fixes were fixed at a time or then broken now or were never fixed, this is the amount of urgency to fix that. But that's also a different situation that's actually being addressed in the email, right? This would then get the accounts, the money, even the state to keep open their banking accounts and to send checks of dire need and increase their social security immediately, or even as well give them direct communication at times, but not interferences. So the money and the knowledge that it got the communication without just hearing the people, but the correct people to be able to understand that, okay, I understand your frame of mind just ran the ball. We're out of bounds now, but somebody else got to say that's not where it's supposed to go. And 3 other people say, yeah, but that person is smart though, and we got to get this fixed fast. Boom, 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 boom. Those did get delivered. Every time it was sent and something that was similar that didn't, that's also each piece of the case or the legal documents that have a 60-day bank freeze that is illegal. And still me would have to be like, bro, I'm outside. I got to figure out how I can get in. So if I worked at every building, right, and I used to cut my hair, now I got to figure out how do I talk to the same people that now think I'm somebody else, but my hair is long. I just don't have a fade and I just don't have a t-shirt without somebody saying, I don't know who that is. I made so much money. I have no idea who that is. Security, get them away. I don't know who that is at my bank. What you mean at your bank? I was going to this bank before that person was ever there, and now they're saying, I gotta call the police. I don't know how the police have anything to do with my bank account or even the businesses. But then, if anything, that urgency email of 91 should have made me 91 billion that fast. And then also that 91 billion chain reaction in checks will be checked by what? The work that is the safety to provide that. So they would say, holy moly, why did out of the trust fund or the legal documents immediately deposit 91 billion? They would say, okay, 91 billion is gone. But then the algorithm, the AI, and the people who address it would say, okay, that was a social security flaw. That was, if anybody lived on that, they wouldn't probably be able to live. Then that would be increased for everybody else. Then work is more efficient, more fun. Everybody's also getting more paid. They have more time and accommodations to study. And then it's easy to flow and even to communicate and shake hands instead of being of fear. If nothing was of fear of making more economics at the bank, right? To increase the market cap and the money at the bank or of the United States. It had nothing to do with fear. It was to shake hands and address the urgency of even why some of these situations are trying to legally go unaddressed almost. Then having the money would make people legally have to address that. Holy moly. So everybody with an ego would then have to look at why is 91 billion gone. But 91 billion would have already no ego supposed to save everybody who then, if they have their first email they ever type and they're afraid, if it doesn't send, who is it gonna go to? Somebody for the first time, oh my God, I don't know if I press this. Then imagine they press it, it doesn't go anywhere, but it should have went there. And they're already smart enough to know, like, okay, so something within Google or the algorithm or even in CSS coding can then be different in Google. Like, okay, so for some odd reason, even within Google, they added a parenthesis, but the bubble was still there. But then a postmaster shows undelivered, or the professionals in Congress or the people could then act as if it wasn't delivered to them. That's many addresses to fix easy. Has to be delivered to them. They cannot flip a off switch, and they cannot then have a bubble look like it's being sent, or then a comma then not have the email be sent, and then change the coding but to the view look like it's actually in the chain, and then even saying it's being sent to, and not make it as hard, because then it would know the correct people already in Congress and the correct people already with the ability to print money, but also address what the issue is to help anybody else who doesn't want to go through that. Like if somebody got to address something different. I don't want to create another analogy that's different from what we just had to talk about in real life.